What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting all the way across the city from me this week and every week, he's the king of all VR kings. He's the Sopa King himself. It's Jeremy King.
Hey, and I don't know where the fuck he is, but sitting somewhere pretty far away, I think on the West Coast, is Donatello the Scientist Gamecat.
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
Donatello, a.k.a. Joshua McCrory. So happy to have you here, man. And look at the Gamecat t-shirt, man. He's wearing the merch I don't even own.
Right? No shit.
Man, such an honor to be here, though. Really is. This is super exciting.
Sirens on my end. We're definitely excited to have you here. And of course, out there, if you want to learn more about Donatello, the Scientist Gamecat, make sure you tune into our later box episode over on patreon.com/withoutparole games. We're going to be filming that right after this.
$1. $1.
Just $1 a month, man. That's it.
Yeah.
But listen, we got to get this show on the road. So, What we do here on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we pull up a game out of the PSVR archive, we dust off it, we play the crap out of it, see if it's been given any love by developers, any updates, any DLC, and then we let you know out there, the loyal Gamecat, if it's worth your time. That being said, Joshua, what game did we decide to play this week?
The Mage's Tale.
That's right, The Mage's Tale, version 1.02. That will be important, by In Exile Entertainment, released February 5th, 2019, for $30. Guys, I want to tell you right now, this game was really blurry once upon a time. With the pro patch they gave it with version 1.02, it's now not so blurry. It also requires 2 Move controllers. Jeremy had to use Move controllers this week. What kind of game is The Mage's Tale?
Well, it says right in the title screen, it calls it a dungeon crawler. But I would like to add, very heavy on the puzzles. Very, very heavy. Definitely some action RPG. As Brian said, it's by Exile, and one of my favorite games made by them is The Bard's Tale, which I learned this is a continuation of the story.
I didn't realize that until you said that, and it makes sense, because In Exile, I'm like, where have I seen them before? And all right, The Bard's Tale.
So guys, it starts off pretty unassuming. You're playing as an apprentice to a mage, Master Alguin, and then the game starts. This battle happens. His evil nemesis comes and blows him out of the sky, and then basically kidnaps him, and then we're off to find him.
I will say, as there's a lot of elements that kind of make this unique, and it's definitely an action RPG, but there's some spell creation and leveling up, and as I said, lots of puzzles, and it starts out when I jumped into the world, I was blown away. First time I played it was on a PS5, and so the blurriness was not there, and it looked gorgeous. It was really great.
I also, just like Josh, I never played it previous, only on the PS5, and I was impressed. I thought it looked great.
Yeah, 100% agree. I played this at launch, and I was like, it still had a nice art style. You can tell even through a little bit of a blur on the OG PS4 that there's a ton of style here. And then once they sharpened everything up, it's like, whoa, it actually looks fantastic, man. It's like it's kind of a world I want to inhabit. It's kind of a world I want to reach out and touch things. It's kind of a world where I don't want some dude talking in my ear the entire time, as every fucking VR game on the face of the planet likes to do. And this one's no different. Jeremy, who's the dude in our ear this time around?
It's some like floaty. He reminds me of Orca or whatever his name is from He-Man, but what's his name? I don't remember his name.
I don't know. I
kind of a dickhead. It's all I know. He's not very nice to me.
Right. He's basically the assistant to Master Alguin, right? And so he's kind of pissed off that you let this happen, and he's there being a dick to you, but also knows that you need to go save him. So he's like kind of by your side, helping you along the way. I know that this is something we complain about a lot. It's like, dude, just let me play the game. I don't need to have this voice, or some dude hovering or over me, just like talking incessantly the entire time. But I'll say, when I was replaying this today and really paying attention to what he was saying, there were moments where I was glad he was there, because I was like, I don't know if I just left to my own devices, if I'd be figuring all this out on my own. Did you guys feel the same way? Was he necessary?
He doesn't pop up as much as other games, so that was all right. And when he did pop up, it didn't inhabit or it like literally paused the game and you just was stuck there staring at him. You could be shooting around and doing your thing, and he's standing over there still telling you shit you should be listening to. But I didn't feel that it was very impactful against the game or make it any kind of, annoyance. What about you, Josh?
Well, first off, I named him the Green Gazoo because that's who he reminded me of
From the
from the
Jetsons?
Jetsons.
Nice.
Yes, from the Jetsons. So the Green Gazoo there, I saw him as in the Bard's Tale. There's a character that's called the Bobs, and he's very close to them. He looks very similar to them, and what they brought was this sense of humor um, that is, kind of cutting, kind of, really sarcastic, over the top sarcasm with, being annoyed or whatever. He was annoying. I mean, and I did not listen to him the first time. And I will say, when I first bought this game, when it was on sale, I didn't listen to him. And then I tried to play and I quit because I could not figure out anything. Because there's, as we'll get into, the controls have to be done a certain way. So he's necessary but annoying, but I think that is on purpose.
You reminded me of Megamind. That's where I kind of like put him,
Mhm.
like Megamind. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got so much stuff I want to talk about, especially in terms of like the controls and everything. We sort of dabbled into a little bit of everything, but I sort of just want to get into the premise first and foremost. Donnie already mentioned that it's sort of it's a dungeon crawler. So let's start with the beginning of that. So when you walk into a room and things start attacking you,
This is one of the things I filled out the first time. I thought, I'm gonna hit him with my hand or find a sword. No, you have spells that you need to use, and there's four types of spells. There's fire, and there's ice, and there's wind, and there's lightning, and these can be modified. And what you're doing is you're using these spells through movements with the move controller. So you pick the spell, and then you figure out a way to best deliver that spell, which for me was awkward. I played sports. There is a way to throw a ball. There is a way to throw a fireball into, and you're gonna have to relearn that if that's the case. Because I went from hitting my ceiling fan to to pretty much this motion. I did a lot of this motion,
Yeah.
but it did as I got used to it, got used to doing that. It became second nature.
Yeah.
And it was a lot, and you get a lot of repetition throughout the game to practice for sure.
the
Yeah.
game doesn't care if you can pitch a baseball. You have to look at your enemy, which I kind of hate. Right? You have to stare at the enemy, then a pattern appears on the enemy, and then you just make the kind of a throwing motion, like Josh was saying, you kind of like thrust it forward, and then it just auto targets. Right? As long as you're looking at this thing and the pattern's there, it will go toward it. What I hate about that, like I don't mind, it's like the game's helping you out. It's like, all right, let's do this. But what I hate about it is that if you could be like 10 feet away from something and absolutely try to hit that thing, and almost every single time I knew I was throwing right at the enemy, it would be like 6 inches above his head.
Yeah.
I was like, why does it have to be like that, man? It doesn't have to be like that. It's like just you're shit out of luck if you haven't done the auto target gaze first. Drive me insane. Did it feel to you guys like a shooting gallery? Like it didn't feel like I was fighting a room full of enemies. It always felt like, okay, here they come, and just like, and you kill one, another one would pop up, and there'd be like three, and you'd just be running around and just like boom, 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 and it just felt like very shooting gallery to me. It didn't feel like they were actually enemies with actual AI. It didn't seem like they were cunning or doing anything interesting or sneaking up behind me. In fact, if they were sneaking up behind me, they would purposefully run in front of me because they know I'm playing a video game and like they have to get in front of the camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. I felt that way at the beginning and a lot of the middle. There's boss battles in here that changed it up a little bit, but what I learned, because I died a lot, what I learned is their movements don't change. When this small little enemy goes this way one round, if you die, come back, he will do the exact same thing. So I started learning that way. And some of the later enemies, they started moving faster. And it became less of the shooting gallery. It still was. I definitely agree with that. But it was it was more, the combat was more of trying to pick the right thing to hit that enemy type with. That was, the hardest thing for me.
Yeah, like get them, take care of them as soon as possible. And again, back to the predictability of the game. When you enter the room, if there was ledges, you're like, all right, there's going to be an enemy on that ledge. Once I defeat him, I bet you there's going to be one that's going to spawn on that ledge. While there's one down on the lower ground level, or a few I'm going to be combating. And I with those little fodder guys, you tend to stick with the weapons you like the best, or the spells you like the best. Me, it was fireball. I would just be like, with the fireballs. But I would try with other weapons, and like getting to learn the things with the spells and how you cast them. The ice spear, I always had an issue with the ice spear because I'd throw it and it'd just be like think, and it would fall and shatter. It took me a while, and it seemed like sometimes I'd get it, sometimes I wouldn't. But the fire spell, it was always like a sidearm with me. I'd be like, fun. And yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I love the lightning myself. Because like I would do the fireballs, and then some dude would be standing behind a table, and I'm just like, I can't quite hit him because the game doesn't exactly know what I'm trying to do right now. And so finally, I just like charge up the lightning spell and go, and it would chain lightning too. Like it would go from one dude to the next, and I'd be like, fucking, this is the way to take everybody down in seconds. So I was like, I don't know why I did anything other than lightning.
It was trying to learn how to use two different things at once. So using that spear to freeze, and then what was the most effective way based on I was getting into that minutia, but that took a long time because I had such trouble with controls. I mean, I kept saying, I really wanted to be tighter. They just seemed like sometimes I would grab it, and God knows how many times I hit the turn button. I mean, I don't know if that's just had to be me, but I hit that turn button trying to select my spells.
Yeah.
So many times.
Right?
Oh wow, I get what you're saying. You just hit the wrong button.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Me too.
I'll tell you, I am that guy usually, but this game I was like, nope, no problem. I hit the button, boom, just selected. I didn't even have to look because I knew where all my spells were. Just like boom, made the gesture, just got it. And so I didn't have that problem. But I do agree that this game has control problems. This is a game that wants to be VR as fuck and fails miserably at it. It's like, how many times, especially right at the very beginning of the game, did you reach out for a potion to try to pick it up, and your hand is on it, and you're just like, why can't I pick this up? And then, but the game doesn't want you to reach out and pick it up. It wants you to onslaught this thing and just kind of point at it and teleport it to your hand. And I was like, and once you get used to that, sure, it's easier, but it's like, well, why? What's the point? Use that for stuff on the ground, because I don't think there's a crouch button, right?
No.
Right. No crouch button. So use that for stuff on the ground. Use the telekinesis. But for the rest of the game, let me reach out and grab stuff and like pull that lever to open a door instead of just being like,
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. It was frustrating because a lot of times the movement, the teleportation, the spell selecting, the turning, I fumbled through it almost the whole time, to be honest. Wow. It was tedious.
Yeah, I agree. But since we touched on spellcrafting a little bit, it is really, I mean, obviously you very frequently have to come back just to progress through the game to take this new potion you learned. And by the way, can we just stop for a second and talk about how adorable that pet frog is that shows up every time you pick up something that he is going to transport back to your lair for you?
Yeah.
It's so cool to be like, to pick something up and then you turn around and there he is. He's just like, I didn't even see him come in. And it's just this giant frog sitting on like a magic pillow, and he opens his mouth and you throw whatever the thing is that you found into his mouth, and boom, he's out of there. And I'm like, you're the best pet ever. Sorry, Tornado, I didn't mean it.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was the charm, those little moments. There's little pieces spread throughout the game, where there's just this, you can tell that the dev has a love for this type of genre and fantasy. He put those little details throughout the game, which, for me, always, the first time I saw, Vacuum Frog, I mean, I had the biggest smile on my face. I had such a big smile on my face. He was great.
Yeah.
But so then you get back to your lair, right? You've collected all of these things. Like, did you guys get crazy experimenting with different spells and seeing what kind of combinations you could make? The game gives you a lot of freedom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I still don't know what the colors mean, but they were fun to play with. I mean, I was just excited to get these modifiers because I had no idea. Maybe I missed that part of the tutorial, but I was just like, well, let me see what this. I collected this. It must mean something. And it's like, oh yes, you got a +2 on whatever. And I was like, well, I got to do this more. And you can and you can go more and more.
I have to admit, at a certain point, I had to look up a walkthrough for this game,
Me too.
and we'll talk about that in just a second. But the guy who was playing, the spell he was casting for, God, I'm trying to think now because it's been a while. I think the spell he was casting for lightning was like radically different than the spell I was casting for lightning. And you just assign it to the different spots, and it's just so cool to kind of have that ability to personalize your game in that way. Which you don't even have to do. Like, you can just kind of stick to the core tenets of spellcasting, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
And did you get the rainbow color?
Yeah.
I did not. See,
That was a cool one. I thought that was really cool. I did enjoy that personalization of the colors was cool. Finally got the rainbow. Got to test that one out, and that one was excellent.
Well, you guys know me. I love when games reward you for exploring. Like, sometimes you just go to every single corner and there's nothing there, and you're like, why even let me go off the beaten path if there's nothing to find? And this game almost always rewards you for exploring. There's always something to bring back to your lair, to throw into Vacuum Frog, and then mix up in the cauldron later. And that to me is so rewarding.
Right? Even looking way down into pits, you could sometimes see something down there and you suck it up and you got it. And the frog, you feed it to him and you're done.
Exactly.
So yeah, it definitely was satisfying in that regard, where certain games where, like you're saying, you want there to be everything, like the older RPGs, I used to just, the whole fog of war I'd have to remove from the map and just explore every nook and cranny, every corner, everything. And then still now, decades later, I still like to do that. And a lot of the games are lazy, where it seems like they just want to streamline. It's like, you want open world where you can walk anywhere, but here's the path and the items are along there. This game definitely gave that feel where it's like they sprinkled shit everywhere. So no matter where you went, generally you could find something pretty neat. And other things you could find that you're like, what do I do with this? And, there wasn't much. It was just more interaction, so you can pick it up and make the world feel inhabited and alive.
Yeah. Now the thing that this is where everything kind of turns for me, and that's puzzles, because there are certain puzzles in this game. Most of the first half of this game, in fact, I love the puzzles because you walk into a room, and again, it's like almost common sense. You're like, well, if I do this with this spell and cause that to fall or break or melt or catch on fire, then this will happen and create a path for me. And I was like, I love environmental puzzles. That works very well. But I got to a point in this game where the whole dungeon crawl aspect of it became so frustrating, where it was just a collectathon. It was like, you got to find this many stones for this room here and just go wander in that direction. All the hallways look the same. And then once you find something, go wander in that direction. All the hallways look the same. And it just got so tedious that it almost drove me insane, and then followed it all up with literally riddle rooms, where it's not environmental puzzles anymore. It's just a dude telling riddles, and then you have to hit things in a certain order. And I almost lost it. I was like, this game had everything going for it, and it ran straight into a brick wall right there for me. I've still finished it because I used a guide, but man, it went from being awesome to me hating it. Did you guys run into that same thing, or like did you just kind of like breeze through it? What happened with you?
No, same thing. The first half of the game, the puzzles were logical, as I'd like to say. Like, there was a rhyme and a reason. Some took me longer than others, but I figured it out. And then, another thing at halfway, the puzzles became, there were some puzzles where you just had to throw a fireball at a certain rocks that all blended together to open up a certain thing, and unless you're thinking about that, it's not logical. It's almost like luck. I would say some people would argue it is logical. But I think what really got me was the first half of the game. There is some puzzles you have to, to progress, you have to get those puzzles. But there's a lot of puzzles that are just to get extra stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
When you get to the second half, no, you have to finish every single puzzle to progress. And it became really, really frustrating because it ramps up. You know, you might be doing a couple of puzzles in the first stage. By the time they just keep adding, you're doing like 10, 11, 12 puzzles to get out of that particular zone.
Yeah. And the game definitely beefs up. Like it starts easy, burn a rope, open the door.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then the rooms start getting bigger, the puzzles start getting more elaborate. And then that's where I had a lot of issues with the controls too, because the controls would make the puzzles frustrating. Simple things, grabbing that little, lockpick type of thing where you got combination locks, where you got to turn them one till the stars like ding, and then the other way. Even that was a pain in the ass. The room with the pillars, and you got to spin the symbols.
Oh,
it's
see,
like,
I actually like that. I gotta. And this is why different people are going to enjoy different things about this game, because that didn't bother me at all. I loved walking around with those crystal balls, finding the hidden messages on the wall, seeing the handprints and the footprints. I was like, this is a little creepy, man. I kind of like this, and then just like boom, 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 boom. Okay, puzzle solved. No problem. But yeah, so that's why different puzzles are going to hit different people in different ways, and that's why I was curious if it hit you guys like a ton of brick halfway through too.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely like to say this game needed a backpack or a way to stow that crystal ball. Because when you take it from room to room, which there's going to be times you're going to have to do that, you have to hold the button down and walk with it in one hand. And that was just annoying. I was just like, why can't I just put this on my back, grabbing that axe and, put it right there. And then when I need it, boom. And if I'm a hardcore puzzler, then I just throw it away because I'm too awesome and I could do it anyway. So.
Right. I'd much rather put the orb there than that book just to open up and see my level, you know?
Yeah, I never used the book.
No.
I really didn't.
Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, there should have been a button to summon the frog, and just like and he can like deliver items to you, and also you can give items to him. Because there were even like gems and stuff like that. It was like I was like, oh, look at all these gems, and then I was like, oh wait. I'm just going to put him back down and walk away.
I'm here. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I just broke them. So
yeah.
I was like, well, I can't do anything with it. Bam.
Yeah.
All right.
Guys, I think it's about time that we rate this sucker.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what is our rating scale this week?
This week and every week, our rating system is 1. You fucking go out, get this game now. Like now. 2, wait till tomorrow, next week, week after, wait for a sale, then buy it. 3, don't wait for shit. Just fucking do something else with your money. Go buy some candy or, I don't know, whatever.
Candy.
Throw candy, right?
Candy's
go buy
good.
some candy this week.
Easter candy, man.
There you go.
Donnie, we're going to put you on the spot, buddy.
Yep.
So, this game, the controls were very frustrating. As much, as I want to, I had to use a guide to get past these puzzles, which I think back into like if I could have done it, if I wasn't under kind of a deadline, if I could have done it, it is doable, but it adds a level of frustration when it's combined with the controls to made me want to pull my hair out basically, but given that, given those two major issues in the game, I really enjoyed the actual world that they created. As I said, I really enjoyed the Bard's Tale, so that helped a lot. But, it definitely was a game where it had nostalgia. It had, there was a level of challenge to it that I prefer in this type of game. And I can't give this a 1 just because the issues are going to turn off a lot of people, and so for me it is a 2, and it's an average 2. It's an average game, but I think for some people it will absolutely be a 1. I just for me though it was average, and I just hope to see more in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I was dreading this episode. I never reviewed this game. I never did a regular without parole review. We've never done a Why We Love episode on this, and I was like, because I've always been like, oh, it's just so frustrating and so irritating that I didn't actually want to go back to it and revisit it. And then so when I went back into to replay it, start from scratch, I was like, what's wrong with you, Brian? This is actually really fucking good. Like it looks beautiful. Like I love the style of the world. The characters, again, they should have bothered me. They didn't. I really enjoyed going through and kind of like, figuring out some of the puzzles again and sort of experimenting and figuring out what to do. Leveling up. I love leveling up. I love progression systems. And every single time my wrist glowed and I was like, boom, then the controls didn't work and it was like, do it again. Oh, god damn. Like the move controllers would like vibrate away from each other and I was like, what is going on? But once I was able to level up and then like pick my option out of the chest, it was like, do you want to level this up or this up? I'm like, I don't, just give me more. Like that's so rewarding to me, and being able to create new spells and feeling more powerful. Every hour that I've played, I feel more powerful than the hour before, and that's great. That every game should do that. And I think this really delivered on that. It's a 10 to 12 hour game. We didn't, especially when this came out, we didn't have enough of those. And then halfway through, like it all just feels like it starts falling apart. Like it's just things are designed to slow the player down. And I would have much preferred a 6 hour tight experience that kind of eliminated some of that hassle in the back half of this game. But there's an old Mitch Hedberg joke that says you don't not do something because of what happens at the end. It talks about eating an apple. He's like, you don't. It's like, no, I don't want an apple. Eventually, it'll be a core. And so, I kind of feel like this game is an apple, and then eventually it becomes a core, and like a rotting core at that. And so, I'm going to give it a really strong 2, because like if you love riddles and puzzles and like this is a puzzle game. Fuck the whole subtitle that says dungeon crawler. Bullshit. It's not a dungeon crawler. It is a puzzle game through and through. So AJ would love it. But strong 2, man. Strong 2. There's a lot of great stuff in here that just kind of gets bogged down and like kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth by the end. But I still really enjoyed it way more than I expected to. I love the freedom. I kind of even the controls. I was like, I'll fucking get over it, man. There's a lot of good stuff here. So
Yeah.
strong 2 for sure, and not because of the price, just because of what happens at the end. It becomes a core. Jeremy, I went on forever. What's your rating?
Mitch Hedberg taught me 2 things. Dogs are always in the sit-up position, and never go see a Dr. Acula. Besides that,
All he does is suck your blood.
yep.
Yeah.
So I would say for this game that the one factor that took away my really loving it is the controls. I thought just the controls, the movement. You can hit the one button and it'll move you forward. You could teleport. The problem is like when you moved forward, you kind of like moved kind of like this in a sense where you could never really go down a hall smoothly. It was like you had to turn a little bit, or you just teleport. And the combat, when it starts ramping up later on, when there's varying types of enemies, you got to change the spells. It just seemed like the game wasn't designed for that quick of a combat system. So it became a little bit of a lot of dying. And like Joshua is saying, remembering where the enemies and what they'll kind of do. But I thought the, spell system and playing around with that. And I loved the bounce on my fire spells. So I would like bounce things, or, and I like that. I thought that was really neat. Graphically, I thought it varied, with the environments, and they kept that same fantastical, it fit. Like it wasn't too extreme of environments. They all went together well, but they definitely varied, and they definitely got bigger and more grand. So, I mean, for me overall with everything, I thought it was a strong 2. I could have been more of a 1, like a weak 1, if the controls were just a little bit better. I just thought the controls were really, really annoying. I mean, frustrating at times. And the puzzle solving was not, I mean, yes, it was an issue, but just those simple environmental moving things, the controls got in the way of solving the puzzle. I mean, there were times where you do something that would glitch out, and like that big stone pillar area that I had, we got to match up the symbols to different runes on the room and ink. It just started like poltergeist, like and spinning. I was like, what the fuck did I do? And it was like I didn't do anything. It was just going crazy. So the game glitched a lot, but I mean, without a doubt, it's definitely a 2 for me. I had a lot of fun, and I definitely I enjoyed it. I thought it was definitely an enjoyable one. Two.
Two's all around.
Two
Yeah.
all around.
It's pretty good, man. It's pretty good. This ended up being way more positive than I expected it to be. Josh, thank you so much, man, for hanging out with us. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, it's an honor. This was fantastic.
I do want to give a shout out to all the Gamecats who have asked to be on. Things are, however, changing. I wish I knew that some of the bigger changes we were making on the channel before I started telling people, hey, like, you know, send your requests, like, let's get you on the show. Things are changing in just a couple weeks, and so we're not taking any more requests for guest appearances on Why We Love. But I do appreciate every single person who wrote in. I promise we're gonna get as much of the community on the channel as possible down the road a little bit once we get the new format set up. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of the Mage's Tale, and usually I say, you know, let us know what other games you want us to play. But again, format's changing, so we've only got a couple of these official episodes left. Hopefully you've been along for the ride, and hopefully you're gonna love the changes that we're making. We'll keep you posted about all of those very soon. But for another episode, in the meantime, Why We Love PlayStation VR. That's, I don't know which way you guys are. I think you're both on this side or that side. Some people.
We're around.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Jeremy. My name is Brian Paul. This is PSVR. Why We Love PSVR. And we're out.